Good morning, everybody. I think we're on. Oh, I think so, right? Does that sound? Yeah. Thanks, Heather.
We're officially live.
We're officially live.
Hi.
So on behalf of all of Guidehouse, everybody, I want to thank Government Executive for having us here for this great Route 50 Roadshow ATX. I think as I kind of think about what's on the agenda today and what we've heard so far, really the crux of what we're talking about is changing the way we think about engaging, recruiting, retaining employees, and really, frankly, just organizational change. At Guidehouse, we have a organizational change management practice that's really centered around human-centered design and economic thinking, behavioral economics. And we've really applied that practice to a project that we're doing with TxDOT. So I'm not going to give you theoretical stuff from Guidehouse. What I'm going to give you is an opportunity to engage with my friend, client, and colleague, Robin Capello, who is really the change champion. She is the sponsor of change at TxDOT for this really exciting project that we are doing together, and we're so fortunate to be a part of. So we're just going to dive right in and talk about daring greatly, having the tenacity to pursue change, which, boy, you want to meet somebody tenacious. Meet my friend Robin, y'all. She's doing some great things and the really exciting things at TxDOT, along with some of the other folks that are here in the audience from the TxDOT team and those back at all of the TxDOT offices. So let's just dive in here.
You got it.
All right, let's do it. So give us a little bit of an overview of the project that you're actually working on, because organizational change management is a part of a very large project for y'all.
So it's very interesting. It's an evolution for TxDOT, really. It started out as a circumstance that we basically took and made an opportunity. And so a little bit of background about TxDOT in the Austin metropolitan area. We have 5 campuses across the Austin metropolitan area. The Riverside location, I'm not sure if you're familiar with where Riverside and Congress, just down south here. We have 3 buildings on that property, but we don't own the land. And I can tell you that the city of Austin has master planned that property, and it doesn't have us in their future thinking. So clearly, the state of Texas is not planned for the future at Riverside. Our land lease, the first of the 2 land leases on the 3 buildings, is set to expire in July of 2022. So TxDOT needs to go somewhere. And so out of this circumstance, we took this as an opportunity. Since we have to do something, we could just move. That was option 1. Or we could really look at who we are, where we want to be, what are the forces that are surrounding this time at TxDOT that could drive us to possibilities. And so I'll share a little bit more about that, but that's kind of the background that drove our actual campus consolidation project that is going to be located in South Austin off of Stastny and Burleson.
So setting the vision and understanding the rationale for the change obviously is a key step in any change process. Your new office complex move could have simply been a building project, as you just said. We could lift and shift employees from one place to another. But y'all went a step further and set quite a grand vision for what you're actually attempting to achieve with this project. Talk about that vision setting and where you ended up on that.
So when we first tackled this project, the leadership of TxDOT asked my particular division to plan for the move of 2,000 employees, because we opted to move not only just Riverside, but we decided to move our Camp Hubbard location off of 35th across from Camp Mabry. We also have some leased property on Breaker Lane and Centimeter Circle, and we also have a laboratory north in Cedar Park. And so we were looking to consolidate all of those campuses because there's a real opportunity. If we're going to move, let's bring them all together and create efficiencies. And so through that process, we were really challenged to start asking questions about our vision. And when we met and had leadership sessions, visioning sessions, and Guidehouse helped navigate those conversations, we asked the question, what does it look like the first day you walk into our campus in 2022? And executives had this kind of funny look on their face. They're like, you mean the colors, the floor? I'm like, no, what does TxDOT look like the day you walk in the door in 2022? And that started spurring conversations about, well, we're going to engage, we're going to have collaboration, we're going to have opportunities for chance meetings where the way we design the space will allow for certain folks to walk through the building itself and run into one another just because of the way the design of the space is created. We want to collaborate, we want to engage, we want to create these opportunities for efficiencies just through design that would obviously impact our processes. And so how do we get there? And so then we created this birding platform, as I described, that sense of urgency, because there were several other factors coming into play at the same time. We had for instance, our employee retention and obviously employee recruitment that we're trying to obviously address. Particularly here in Austin, we have a very high percentage of retirement eligible employees that at 2022 could have other opportunities to do something else. And maybe this move is going to be the move that makes them decide to do something differently. We also have a very big edict from the state of Texas to expand the highway system, Proposition 1, Proposition 7, infusing $70 billion into TxDOT for expansion of roadways over the next 10 years. How do we ensure that we can deliver on that if we have a workforce that potentially could walk out? And so as we looked at this, we said, okay, we have to create an environment that is going to want to keep people here and attract people to come in the future. And so we had to look at really what is the expectation of TxDOT as an employer. And we started coming up with a vision of a destination workplace. Some folks, when I say destination workplace, they think,
it's not the Bahamas.
Not the Bahamas, not coconuts, palm trees, but actually a place that people look forward to going to every day because it gives them the tools that they need to do their job. It's an environment that's focused on well-being. It creates a balance in their life, a work-life balance, so that they can work as what they do, not where they go, so they could do their work anywhere. And so creating a destination campus was another key piece of this employee retention and employee retraction that we were trying to achieve. And then last but not least, focusing on a sense of well-being and belonging. It's very important, as we talked about Gen X and we talked about the millennials and their need to have a sense of belonging, creating an environment at TxDOT that attracts folks to feel valued in the workplace and make contributions to the work that they do. So, long answer to your question, but we created a vision blueprint that really crafted what that looks like. A picture paints 1,000 words. Our vision blueprint was 1,000 words that painted a picture of what TxDOT will look like. And through the change process, we create design.
Yeah, and so we're really talking about not just the furniture and the fixtures and the move of the people. We're talking about flexible work strategies. We're talking about, we talk a lot about where the coffee makers are going to live in this new world. Mm-hmm. And so with all of that, that's a lot of change. And everybody in this room knows that change is sometimes very complicated and very hard, and people get comfortable in the land that they live in. And so, as we go through this process, there are a lot of things that we're really trying to focus on. And one of the, I think, key elements that this team has been so successful at is driving good sponsorship at a number of levels, at your executive level, your leadership level, and even down at the staff level. You want to kind of talk a little bit about how we got to such amazing sponsorship?
Yeah, absolutely. So first it starts with the executive level. Without that, the trickle-down effect will not be effective. You have to have that executive level of sponsorship for any type of enterprise-level change that you're trying to make. And so I challenged our executive team to have the courage to be the change that they wanted to see. We actually stood up recently an innovation lab that's test driving living workspaces, and we'll talk about that in a minute, that really basically flipped the workplace design on its head and challenged how we have traditionally done workspaces. In the past, it has been you design a workspace for the title of the employee, they get a certain number of square feet, That Friday afternoon, they usually get a yellow box rolled up to their desk, and then by Monday morning, they moved into their new workstation, and then they have to adapt all their stuff and the way they work to the space that they've been given. And so implementing living workspaces actually is designed for how we work. And we've studied the employees at TxDOT to be able to implement that. And so that's one level of sponsorship, which I will tell you, our executive team test drived the Innovation Lab last week because they knew that their presence in that space, since these are new design concepts we're implementing, they had to be that change and be a part of that and understand contextually what they were implementing for the department. Beyond that, we have work groups that have been assigned, which are basically executive extensions of our executive team. They've been appointed to make recommendations and sponsor the project at the division level of the organization. And then at the division level, then we also have change champions. These are folks that see the possibilities with a project of this magnitude for TxDOT. And they are leading the charge at, I call it the local level, boots on the ground, talking through the various initiatives, developing focus groups and brown bag events to really stimulate interest and continue the conversation around the project. So many levels of sponsorship are key to ensuring a project like this maintains momentum and continues forward through to be successful.
Yeah, and one of the great outcomes of that Living Workspace Lab, one of the terrific change champions at TxDOT was the first in the Living Workspace Lab, and she was a leader, expected to have an office, and after being in that workspace for a week, she decided that her team was not going to have offices, that she felt cut off from everybody else. And so that experiment really drove some innovation for her. And then also she took that to the next level and created a blog for her team so that they could kind of talk about the experiences of this change. And so communication is obviously a really key factor of managing change, right? And there's the right amount of communication and meaningful communication. Obviously you can, I don't know about you, but I get 4,000 emails a day. And so I want communication that actually matters to me. And so you want to talk a little bit about some of the communications practices that we're working on to make sure that the teams are plugged in just the right way?
That's right. And that was a challenge in and of itself. We had to develop a communication plan and strategy to approach how we were going to communicate what was going on with the project at the right times in the right ways, because different folks receive information in different ways and will accept it. So we really studied how best to communicate within TxDOT. And so we have various channels and frequencies with which we share information and touch points throughout the life of the project. So the channels can vary from a simple newsletter, because you just want to get a blitz out on the topic of interest in that quarter, to a SharePoint site, which is your one-stop shop for all the information you ever want or need to know about the project. And then we have more engaging communication opportunities where we'll conduct road shows or open houses for folks to come and ask questions and do those various activities. And so the channels are many. They're strategically timed. We also take pulse checks of the organization to make sure that we're giving them the right amount of information when they need it, because we don't want to oversaturate, because that will impact the momentum of any project if you oversaturate. And once they create that Outlook rule, you know you're doomed, because that's where it's all going. And so we're very mindful of that, and we continue to adjust our communication channels as well as we go, because as the project evolves, the communication needs change. They may want more details about certain things like coffee pots. These are hills to die on in state government and where those are strategically located. And so being able to create focus groups and targeted information around specific questions that they have interest in are important in the process.
Yeah, and as Robin says, as we kind of go over time, there are people that are moving and people that are not moving, and so we've got to start to tune those communications to those teams. We're about to run out of time, because that's how these things go, right? I'll say this. There's lots more to talk about here. That we have to do lots of measurements and reporting and those kinds of things to manage the change and kind of see where everybody is on that change curve. Robin and I will be at the little Guidehouse booth during the break if you want to come talk, catch up, learn a little bit more.
Yes.
You know, I'd just say we both probably would encourage you to be bold and, look for opportunities to change, big, small, and whatever. And if we can help you, we'd be honored. Thanks so much.
Thank you.